Hi, Merch Money. Welcome. We have Dvorah Lansky with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I am so honored and really excited about tonight's topic.
Oh, well, good. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I love the title. I love your website, Share Your Brilliance. That is so beautiful. How did you think of that?
Well, I've been focusing with authors since about 2007, and I had a website called Reach More Readers, and it just felt like that was that's the goal, but it felt like that was the work, and it wasn't like the true essence of what people really wanted to be doing. When I thought, why do authors want to reach more readers? They want to reach more readers because they want to share the message on their heart. So I came up with Share Your Brilliance, and it just fits everything I do: the digital art and the merch and the written books, the paperback books, the Kindle books, the online speaking, and teaching people how to create classes. Is all about sharing what's on their heart. What a lot of people take as, oh, it's no big deal. People, because they've spent decades studying and applying it, but other people would be so eager to know what they have to teach.
Yeah. I love that. And it's so true. People don't know what they have to share. They don't even know their brilliance. So I love that title.
Thank you.
It's brilliance is such a good word because most people just say like, well, share what I know, I guess, but it's not like brilliance.
So. Well, actually, you know how that came to be? When I first wrote my first book, somehow we're taught somewhere along the lines, you can't promote yourself because that's not being humble. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of people either go overboard and it's like obnoxious, or they don't say anything and nobody knows what they do.
Yes.
So I was not embarrassed, but timid to share about my book. And then I had readers coming and writing to me and in tears. They told me they were in tears about a marketing book. I said, how could you be in tears about a marketing book? So you don't understand. I don't know how to share my message with other people. And I'm getting chills. And you just showed me exactly what to do. Could you teach me? And that was 2007. I created my first class based on that book, and my whole world shifted because I've been doing that full time ever since.
Amazing. Well, let's take a quick break and say hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Teresa. And thank you all for tuning in. This is a crazy world we're in right now. So thank you for taking the time to join the show and spend a moment of your time with us. Feel free to let us know how you're doing. Post in the chat what's going on. I know like right before this show, my county declared a state of emergency. So not even just the state or anything, it's my county that I'm living in. So I didn't even know counties could do that. So it's definitely crazy times. So what part of the world are you coming from, Dvorah?
I'm in Connecticut, and today we found out at 8 p.m. tonight, so 4 minutes ago, we went into, I don't know if they're calling it a state of emergency, but they closed all schools, all levels of school at least for the month of March. And they closed all restaurants, all non-essential, except for like gas stations and markets. The restaurants are open. If they want to be open for takeout only, they're doing curbside takeout. So
wow.
It's like so bizarre. But you know what? If we could, with our ability to communicate, if we can nip things in the bud, what an incredible moment in history to save so many lives by being able to mobilize. And it kind of leads to what we're talking about of sharing our brilliance and living our true lives and being able to do what we're going to do, because I'm going to be giving a talk tomorrow to my group, and they want to know, like, what do we do during these times? And I'm going to have them really look at, what do you know that would help other people?
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love your energy and your vibrance. It's it's contagious, and just going through like things that come naturally to you. And I don't know if it's because you've been doing this for so long, but it just comes across when I was watching your part of the course. I was just like, man, like it's just so quick, like the stuff that you say and what to do for each section. Anyway, we'll get into it, but I'm very impressed by you already.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
You
so
have
honored.
such
I read what you wrote today in the Facebook group, and because I admire you ladies so much. I've been studying with you
Aw.
since the Etsy challenge? What was it, 6-8 months a year, whatever
Yeah.
it was, and just how you run your community and how community oriented you are, because they said that people will come for the training, but they'll stay for the community. And I have people who've been
Oh.
studying with me for 12 years, and they don't care what I teach as long as they can take it with me, because they know I'm going to give them the best. And if they're interested in the topic, and you do that too, the way that you lift up people, and it's a very different way of being, but it's the way that we all choose to live, which it really makes life much more enjoyable, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. So thank you everyone again for being here. I see more people joining. Janelle, we got Christine. Oh, and Christina, you got to tell us about your shirt.
Yes. So a couple weeks ago, we had Christine. She's an artist from our group, and she taught us all some amazing things about composition and just different things. But I'm actually wearing one of her shirts tonight. So, yeah. Yeah, I love her artwork. I ordered 3 of her shirts after the show because I always see her share her art, and I didn't realize I could buy it anywhere. When I found out I could buy it, I was like, "Ooh, I want this and I want that." So I'll be wearing her shirts on the next few shows to kind of show those off. So, yeah,
amazing. I love that. And thank you, Christina. Thank you, Rich. Rich Ecom Chicago in the house. So thank you guys all. Well, let's start from the beginning. How did you get into being an author and teaching and all of this stuff? Bring us way back. How did it all start?
So I'm going to start way back, but don't worry, it's not going to be like a 5-hour story. It'll be condensed, but it starts when I was 10 years old, but don't worry about that. When I was 10 years old, I used to write fantasy stories, and I always knew I wanted to be an author. And so then, life happened, went on, was in college, was in graduate school for teaching, elementary school. And I just said, I want to write workbooks. I am so passionate about writing workbooks. So then I graduated to college and I started teaching elementary school, and curriculum and all of that. And then when my son was born, I just couldn't leave him. So I decided to stay home, and I started working and doing home-based businesses. And I was at a conference for internet marketing about a little over 12 years ago. And someone who was my direct competitor at the time for the business I was in asked me how I was so successful in the business that I was in. And we had met for coffee. I met with him and his wife, and we met for coffee, and I let them pick my brains, and I asked them questions, and I would just, we were sharing. They were so impressed that I did that. The next day they gave me a signed copy of their book, and they asked me, "What's your dream in life?" And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I just got chills again. You helped me remember. I forgot when I was 10 years old and when I was in college, I always wanted to be an author. I don't know how to do that. And they looked at each other and winked. I'm like, but when I got home, I had an email from their publisher.
Wow.
And that was my first book. And that's when the students asked me, how did you write? They didn't ask how I wrote the book. They said, how did you market the book? How did you get it to bestseller? Show us what you did. So that turned into my second book and my first course. And now here I am 12 years later with probably 22 print books and 45 online courses, one at a time, based on what the audience needs and based on the content and building, okay, what do people need to know next? But taking it one step at a time so it's not overwhelming.
One step at a time. I love that. It's so true, because it feels like so much when you look at people. You're like, how did they do that? How did they get there? But when you really think about it, break it down week by week, do a little bit each week, it adds up. Wow. So your first book was published by a publisher.
Yeah. My first 2 books were published by publishers.
Okay. But sorry, Christine, I think you were about to say something.
No,
you weren't.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was about to say something that feeds right back into what we were talking about earlier. what we look at as being no big deal, what you just watched me walk through could be really overwhelming to people. Well, I could turn that all, which I have, into classes. So when people say to you, as any of you listening, how did you get to where you got? What was your dream? What was your process? What steps did you go through? What knowledge did you learn? What experience do you have? Your listeners are going to be like, oh my God, I could never do that. But they can, and you can help them by showing them, first you do this, then you do this, and then you do this. And you walk them through that process.
Amazing. So you said they were your direct competitors, the people that gave you the publisher. How did they know that? Did you mean like, were you already writing books at that time, or
we
what?
were in network marketing company together, but we weren't in the same downline.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you were doing network marketing. Got it. Okay. And so then you decided to write the book. So what was your first book about?
My first book was about relationship building online.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Connect, communicate, and profit.
Communicate, and profit. That's amazing. Wow. So 12 years ago, what was that? That was 2008? Is that 12 years ago?
Around, I don't have the date right in front of me of the publication, but that sounds about right.
Wow, that's so 2008. So Facebook was still new. That was just when it was starting to become
starting to learn. And I'm a kind of person, and I really believe this, and I'm going to encourage everyone to be brave. You know your topic. As long as you can, I was taught this as a teacher, as long as you can stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of your students, and you're okay with being transparent. If you don't want to be transparent, say 3 or 4 steps ahead of them. But my students all know the first time I run a class, sometimes I run most of my classes because I want to learn the topic. And so it's like, if I'm going to learn it, I want to teach it from the point of view of a new person. So I'm going to create the training based on me learning it from scratch. Most of my trainings are built that way. And then it makes it really easy because they say, oh, you didn't know this either. So they get to learn right alongside you.
Amazing.
That's great. Yep.
My first time teaching someone something, I was 13, and I had just taken piano. I only took 1 year of piano class, and then my parents' jobs moved, and I moved to a new state in New Jersey. And one of their friends had a daughter who wanted to take piano, but they didn't want to pay for it. So they asked me to teach this kid piano. I'm like, I have 1 year experience. They're like, she has 0. So they paid me it ended up being a lot less than a piano teacher would charge because I was just a kid, and but they loved it. The kid loved it. I loved it. It worked for everyone. So it's you just never know. You could just be 1 step ahead. That's all that matters. So, okay. So you were teaching about online. So how you were excited about everything online right away?
I jumped right in, right when, what was it? Starts with
MySpace.
MySpace was just winding down. So I got in just when Twitter started. I learned from some original internet marketers, old school internet marketers. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Was a service where you could create these blogs it was really interesting, like Squidoo. That's what it was called. Squidoo. It was so interesting. So we learned all of that way back when it was just getting started. And so that was really interesting. And then, okay, so I forgot what I was going to say, but now I remembered. So thank you. And that is what I'm really involved with the Chamber of Commerce and whatnot. And there was a group of women there, and they said, we understand that you know about social media. Will you teach us? And I was had just created my first Twitter account. I'm like, sure, I can teach you. What do you want to know? They said, well, we're a group of women. We meet in the tri-state area. There's 12 of us or something. And will you teach us about social networking? And I'm like, sure, because I was learning it, and I know I could teach, and I know I'm a thirsty learner, and I could guess their questions, and I can answer their questions, find the answers to their questions. So it was my first online course. And I did it using free conference call. We dialed in, I made PDFs, and I emailed them ahead of time. I answered their question, and it was like, wow, this is my first class. This is great. And it all came from there, and I realized you know, if you share what you love and you want to help people and you're competent and you can find the answers and you can help them, that works.
Amazing. Well, that amazing that you had learned the sales piece, you learned the publishing piece, you learned the social media piece. So I can see how this is all starting to come together. So you did your first book, and then I guess you were hooked on it. Did you do books right away after that?
Well, within the first year, when people started asking me, will you teach us how you became a bestseller, show us how to market? So I wrote a book called Book Marketing Made Easy, which was basically taking Connect, Communicate, and Profit and restructuring it in a way that was more geared towards authors. And then that became a whole like online academy, everything to do with book marketing and authors and whatnot. And I don't think you know this about me. Sometimes when your parties are like, tell us something about you that we don't know.
Yeah.
I have been the host of 9 telesummits.
Wow.
On book marketing.
Oh my gosh.
So you think, well, why didn't you do the 10th? It's like, well, you organize online events. Those are a lot of work.
I bet there's a lot of demand for online things right now, online summits. So now's your chance to do the 10th one.
I'm thinking someday I may do it. But one of the points I wanted to bring up is I went through there and I had between 9 and 22 speakers each year. So that's, over 9 years, that's quite a few speakers. And probably half of those I turned into books, and I called it Conversations About Marketing. And I made it really clear that it was an interview. And each year it was the same cover, but I just kind of rebranded it a different color and a different image for that year's focus, because each year we had a different focus. So there are a lot of podcasts that are books. And you just let people know it's very, very hard to take an interview and turn it into a traditional nonfiction book, because we speak differently than we read. And I've tried, and it would take like 3 or 4 hours to really thoroughly edit a transcript and keep it as just using it for, as an interview format. If you try to take that and turn it into text for like a nonfiction book, it can take 20 hours and you would have to create a lot more content. So I think as long as you let people know up front, this is from the such and such podcast or the such and such interview series, or my latest books are all transcripts from course lectures.
I had never, ever thought of a transcript for a book. And so when you said that before, when I was learning it from your class, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Rich, are you listening for Ecom Chicago? Oh my gosh.
No kidding. Wow.
I had never thought about that. And I guess, so once people bought the first one, I guess it must have worked because they bought all the other ones in the series, right?
Yeah, because we like to collect. So especially if you brand things so that they look like they go together, people are going to want them. They're like, oh, I don't want just 4 and 5. Where's 1 and 2? And are there more? Especially if they like your topic area. So that can be a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah, you have such a creative mind, like so many ideas that I never thought of. So that was one of them where I was like, what? I've never thought of that. But some other ideas too. So how did you think of that? Like, you just were like, why isn't this a book?
Well, with the transcript?
Yeah.
How did I first? Oh, I first thought about the transcript because a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, she has, I don't think it's a podcast, but she does interviews, and she she has a funny name for them. Something
like Merch Money. Some funny name like that.
Something like Something Briefs, and there's a picture of like underwear on a line, but they're like interviews. And
my God, that's hilarious.
I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. You could do interviews-based books. Oh my gosh, I have like 100 interviews on my computer. Let me go through and get permission from the speakers and start putting them together. It was so much fun to do.
Wow. Amazing.
Now, so people, in case people are like, we're going over to Amazon and check those all out, I only have one up now. I took them all down because I have 20 paperback books and I really wanted to shine the light on those. And as I was going through the content that was created, most of it over 6 years ago, a lot of it was outdated. So I said, okay, I'm going to start to go through one set at a time and update it. So I have one updated so far. So if I do one update each month, they'll start to slowly get back in there. So
that's a good point about updating stuff. I'm kind of thinking about that for our YouTube channel. I'm like, man, I should at some point go back and make sure everything's still updated because people still listen. And I'm like, gosh, I hope there's nothing too outdated on our channel yet. It's only been 2 years, but it's still like stuff changes so fast.
It's so interesting that you say that, though, because as I was preparing for this show tonight, I was going through your YouTube channel and I went all the way back. It's like, oh my gosh, look at them. And this is like episode 3 or whatever it was. And then I was able to like follow you because I kind of skipped through and saw what you were doing and how you did group calls and individual calls and, you know, fun celebration calls and emergency calls when there was challenging things going on in the world. And I think that's a really interesting journey that you take people on. So the content doesn't always have to be current. You could put a disclaimer. You can go back, put a disclaimer. It's like some of the content may be outdated, but the value of what's going on here, you know, just take it with a grain of salt or something like that. Or
yeah, I do have a disclaimer on there somewhere saying like, you know, this is all our opinion or something. I don't know. I have something on there because, you know, we're doing the best we can, but you never know. But I think I'll have to double check and see if it says like it could be outdated. We'll see. But yeah, so you started this journey of writing books, and then how did it all? What was the progression? Like, did you start a group? Did you lean more towards courses, or what happened?
So what happened was, I wrote my second book that turned into a course. It was my first course was on virtual book tours. And how I discovered virtual book tours was very interesting. It was from the same exact person who I discovered about the interview books. Isn't that interesting? And she's still
so somebody else was already doing interview books. So you found, because all of this, I'm like, how did someone think of this?
So my friend, a colleague who was doing this, was doing the interview briefs, something briefs. It was a really funny name. And I thought it was so inspiring. Well, then I heard that she was doing a virtual book tour. I'm like, what's a virtual book tour? I think I was interviewing her. She was a guest on my podcast. I was doing a podcast. She was a guest, and she told me about her virtual book tour. And I'm like, what's a virtual book tour? And she told me that what she does is that 3 days a week, she will write for other people's blogs, and 3 days a week, they'll write for her blogs and for her blog. And so there's all this content going back and forth. And she did that for 9 weeks over the course of the summer. And she went on this journey, and it was so interesting. I said, do you mind if I borrow the idea? Well, it's so interesting how we play off of each other. She got so inspired by my asking if I could use it as an idea that she created a course and a book around it. So then I took it and I made it my own. I changed it up and I created my next course after the book marketing one was on virtual book tours. So here I am teaching the last lesson. Most of my courses are like 4 or 8 weeks. My last lesson of the Book Marketing Made Easy course, my first students. And here we are 12 years later, and some of those same students are still going through my classes, which that means you're doing things the right way when your students are with you. So my next one was virtual book tours made easy. So I started this whole made easy, type of courses. And I offered them, I said, before we wrap up our last session, I want to let you know we have the next class. And if you want the alumni special, and I think 3/4 of them went over and signed up for the new class. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And I taught them how to build a blog and how to, about WordPress and then I went on to, just as a little aside, I went on to build probably 100 WordPress sites and like 20 or 30 membership sites because I like technology. So it just kind of led me to doing services and helping authors create their online presence. So then they wanted to know, well, how do we get the word out? I'm like, well, I believe audio is the best way. So I taught teleseminars made easy. And it kind of progressed like that, listening to the needs of the students.
I love that. And it probably just ingrained it in your head more too, because it's like, well, you might make a WordPress site real quick, but then when you're trying to teach it, you want to make sure like you don't leave anything out and everything. So it really solidifies it for yourself.
Exactly. Like what pages do you need on a blog, and how do you get the word out about the blog, and what the heck is an autoresponder, and all of that.
Yeah.
For people who are like, what's a mouse? That's a lot, a big step to.
Yeah. Wow. So you've had good practice because so much has changed in the last 12 years. So to keep up with each new change and keep on top of it to the point where you're teaching each new change, that's amazing. So.
It is a lot of fun. And one thing I've learned, because a lot of people that I work with have very high level education and degrees. And so to teach someone with a doctorate degree at a kindergarten, how to do internet marketing at a kindergarten level that honors their years of experience was a skill that I developed.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because that's hard, because a lot of those people did not grow up with computers, and they're easily frustrated, and they don't need to know how to build a machine. They just want to know how to get the word out there.
Yeah.
So that becomes great, because then you can develop this resource community. It's like, well, if you don't want to do it yourself, go to these people, let them build your blog, and you just, get your word out there.
Wow. I didn't even think about that either. Christina, we got to be taking notes. I'm going to watch this over again.
Exactly.
I didn't think about that. Like the students you're teaching, you're building up a resource of people that you can refer people to. It's like, okay, they know this. So if somebody needs this in the future, here you go. That's amazing. Wow. Sorry, my brain's like...
Well, I do want to
processing that.
We're talking about technology and whatnot, and about 3 years ago, made a major shift in my infrastructure. So if you want, I can share that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely.
Please.
I am a huge, huge fan of WordPress. I adore WordPress. I would build WordPress sites all day, all night. I love color. I love branding them. I just love everything about WordPress, except getting hacked. And after my third time of basically having my whole business go down, including one time in the middle of a telesummit showing up with a green screen with a skull and crossbones telling me that I had been hacked. But luckily I had my links. I know, it was like, you're kidding me. Having my links coded in such a way that I could resend out the email saying, I'm going to make it up to you. Let's go on with today's training. I'm going to make up for the inconvenience. Let's just get everybody on board and get to the right place. So I took them to a different platform to listen to that day's training. But after the third time and the thousands of dollars to rebuild the site and reprogram everything, I just moved all my stuff to a different platform. I still have a WordPress site, but I use it mostly as a resume site and as a landing, a diving board, not a dive, like a springboard.
Yeah.
So people can go there. They can read about me. They can see all about all my work. It's very pretty. It's branded. Everything's all connected. But I moved all my courses. Oh, and to answer your question, I'm going to get back to that about the progression.
Yeah.
My courses, which leads me to the progression, my coaching programs, my one-on-one services, all of that, I moved to Teachable.
I saw that and I really like Teachable. I've seen more and more people use that. And for me, it just feels like everything goes in such a good progression. And I really have liked any of the classes I've taken on Teachable. How do you feel about it? Do you miss WordPress, or are you used to Teachable now, or what do you think?
Well, I love WordPress. I still have a blog. I still post to it on a semi-regular basis, but I don't base my whole business on it.
Yeah.
I base my whole business on Teachable because I can rely on it. I can create a whole course. I can have different sections, and I can clone it so that I have my, my introductory, my welcome message, my next step messages, my resources are all in place. My, modules are all in place. I just have to replace and rename things and whatnot. It's just so easy to use. I absolutely use it. Love it. So I use it for free opt-ins. I use it for mini courses. I use it for short workshops. Like the course that you went through was a workshop, which was one class out of a 12 module class of a bigger program. So because I have a monthly membership site that's run through that, where I teach them something every month. And then quarterly we do a laser coaching call where it's just, how can I help you? And then from there, it launched into people wanted more support. And so I offered a mastery level program where it's usually around 10 to 12 people. We meet every other week for usually 3 to 6 months. And they'll get in there. I'll be like, okay, here's my manuscript. I do not want to format it. How do I format it? Or here's my idea for a workbook. I don't even know where to begin. And for me, my brain thinks in workbook. It's like I can format.
I love that. Like just doing the one course, I was like, she's so organized. Like your brain is like everything. I just feel like your brain is like a timeline. Like like that's like 1, 2, 3, and then like the next section. Like everything's so organized.
Nice.
I love it. So I've created all these courses, and I create the workbooks and the journals to go along with the courses, and I create them at the same time so that I can field test them with the students and realize, oh, I'm missing a whole section, and I'll go back there and I'll work on it. And then talk about progression. A friend of mine challenged me. She said, she was like my best friend in this area. We sat next to each other at a networking event 16 years ago, and it's been like best friends ever since. Aww. So I took her out for lunch, and we were for her birthday lunch. And she said to me, I want you to teach me how to write a book. And she'd been threatening to write a book for a while.
Threatening, I like it.
She's so busy. It's like I knew the likelihood of it happening. And she's so busy. And so she goes, no, I want you to show me how to do it. I said, I don't do that. That's just a different realm. I don't show people how to write a book. That would take years. She said, why does it have to? Then she asked me a question. Sometimes in our business and our lives, it just takes one thing to change everything. Like the student who came to me crying, I can't believe this book. I changed my life. Like, this is a book marketing. What are you crying for? But that changed my life and showed me that people need to know how to share. Well, she said, I need to know how to get this book written, and I don't want to take 3 years to 2 years to write it. She says, I want you to teach me. I said, oh. She said, what do you love doing the most? I said, I love creating worksheets. I would love to build my whole business around creating worksheets. For me, creating worksheets I love it more than chocolate.
And I know you do. Guys, if you ever want a worksheet, you of all people I've ever met, I think you think in worksheets.
I do.
The most.
It's so interesting. So I said, okay, what? I'll tell you what. She goes, but I want you to charge me for it. And she has a business, and I've paid her a lot over the years to help me with her services. So, and she's always given me the friends and family rate. So I'm like, okay, fair is fair. You have to let me charge you the friends and family rate. And know that it's a brand new program, so you have to let me experiment on you. So that was January 6th of last year. And I said to her, I know how busy you are, but if you let me coach you, let me be your soccer coach, and let me coach you, you will have, I'm getting chills again, you will have your published book in your hand by the end of this month, January.
Aww.
And she did.
Oh my God.
She said, make me a template. So I made a template and sent it to her. She filled it out, sent it back. And I turned that into, I formatted it for her. So I started a new service, a done with you and a done for you publishing service of calling it a take action journal. So then I'm like, this works. So I decided to create a course around it. So I created a course called How to Create a Take Action Journal for Your Audience, where you're basically sharing your expertise and you're walking your students through a process or your readers through a process. And of course, I have her sign up for the course so she has access to everything. And I made templates for people and they just fill them in and whatnot. And I offered it to my community, and I had 97 students my first time running that. And then some of them wanted to go on. It's like, this is all great, but we need help. So then I started. So then I started another level of mastery circle that I call it a mastery circle, where I think I had 15 people. We usually have 10 to 15 people. We're now on the 6th run of that mastery circle, run it every 3 to 6 months. And we have so many students with their Take Action Journal that they can now, they're going into libraries, they're showing it to librarians, and they're teaching like one person, she teaches exercise to seniors, and she brought the book to the library, and they're like, well, can you teach a workshop on this? So then I demonstrated taking her book and turning it into a workshop. And so she turned it into a workshop, and she went there, and here she is, I think a year or two later. She now teaches 3 classes. They pay her, and they put a grant in for her, and they want her to write another book and a workbook and a journal, and they want to buy copies for all their students.
Aww.
Based on her volunteering at the library, based on her journal. So the journal, your Take Action journal is not just like blank lines. It's kind of like a mini workbook combined with a 30-day journal, where it's not just blank lines, but it's like, what did you accomplish today? What did you learn today? What are you grateful for? So it's like targeted questions. So
I love your progression of how you got to workbooks, and then like for our community's progression. Like our community was kind of, you know, doing print on demand t-shirts and things like that. And they're like, maybe we could just put it on a notebook. So it was like kind of like, how do you take what we're doing with t-shirts and put it onto notebooks? And then slowly we're like, well, maybe we can just add a prompt, or we could add this, it ends up turning into a workbook. And then you're basically distilling books down to a workbook. So it's like, how do authors get to workbooks, and how do print on demand people get to workbooks? And but they're so helpful, these journals and these workbooks and all of these things.
Would you like me to share a tip with your audience about how to in 1 week be able to have a Take Action journal, which is like a mini workbook, all the content created?
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right, get your pen and paper, everybody.
She's talking to me. I can't. Oh my gosh. I'm a lost cause, guys. One of these days, pen and paper is going to be in my reality.
All right.
Not yet. No pen, no paper.
What you do, first step, is on a piece of paper, just really give some thought to who your audience is. So how would you describe, first question 1 is don't do the answers now, just jot down the questions. You can do these exercises later. So Question 1 is, how would you describe your ideal reader, or your ideal student, or your ideal client? Then the next one is what do they struggle with? What do they need help with? And then the third one is, what do they need help with that you have expertise in? That is the topic of your journal. Then you turn to a fresh page and you jot down 10 things or 5 things that you can walk them through to help them with that process. So step 1 would go on a blank piece of paper. And then what are the 3 things that you can do to help them complete step 1? That's your first worksheet.
There we go. See, I should have been doing banners for each thing you said. I got 1 up.
So if you do that for 10, you have 10 exercises.
Oh, shoot. Not Merch UK conference. I hit the wrong one. Wow. This is what Chris Green was trying to get me to do. He's like, it's simple. Just write a book. He was thinking of it like a lead magnet kind of thing, like, just a free book. It's just like that. Like you just step 1, step 2, step 3, just do it. And that's where I so far have not done. But I like how you broke it. I'll have to rewatch this and listen to that again, because it really is that simple. Like that was it.
Yes.
And also, sometimes you don't get the ideas I don't get the ideas often until I'm in there doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's moving things around and thinking what steps people would need to go through. And so how I wrote my first 2 books, because I didn't have any time and I was so busy, was I went to the bookstore. I don't know why. I love the bookstore, but I wrote my first 2 books at the bookstore from 10 to 12 on Fridays. It was very hard. I took my phone and I silenced it and put it on the other side of the table, and it was still drawing me in. And I was like, okay, I have to write 2 more pages, then I can check my phone. So it's like retraining your mind. Facebook will survive without me. It's like,
no, it won't. That's ridiculous.
So just like really, putting the phone on the other side of the table, and just taking those 2-3 hours, 10 to 12, 10 to 1, to come up with ideas, to make lists. I love making lists, and then taking those lists and combining like topics, and then deciding on, what can be written on each topic. Is it a separate book? Is it a separate chapter or a module? And then, but just taking that dedicated time. So it's an important appointment with yourself. So if you can find, I'm going to challenge everyone, including you ladies, to find one time each week that you can claim that it's not like in the middle of soccer time or dinner time, or, you know that you can claim that 2 hours, even 1 hour, try for 2 hours for 12 weeks. Even 6 weeks will blow your mind what you can accomplish.
Amazing. It's such a good point. And just that set schedule, like this is the same concept for all kinds of things. Like people say, pay yourself first, like set up automatic savings. And then for me, it's like these set times, like I just act like it's like the law. Like I have to go live on Mondays at 8:00. Like we just don't miss it unless it's like, I mean, it could be a pandemic. We're still here.
It is a pandemic.
I know. I was just kind of joking, but it's not a joking matter. But yeah, I mean, no matter what, I think we've only missed a couple. One of them was it was a Thursday show, which I'm also making it like the law. Like we can't miss Thursdays at noon. I did miss one. My stepson was in the hospital, and we kind of think he already had coronavirus, but I don't know for sure. He got it in February, and he had to go to the hospital. It wasn't talked about yet, so we don't know. But whatever it was a virus that attacked his lungs, and that's we missed one Thursday in February, and that's where we were. So, we don't. So scheduling that time is so important, and just protecting that time. Like no matter what, this is happening on this day at this time. But I like the idea of just setting dedicated work time too. I definitely try to do that. It's not quite as in stone as the weekly shows, but great advice.
Yes.
So, I think I'm behind on comments. Let's see. Rich is saying I would hire Dvorah. Me too. You make everything so simple, and my brain in no way works the same way. Like it's not the same for me. I in no way think in terms of lists or timelines or charts or any of it. Like to me, it's just broad ideas. So I would love to have somebody like you that can kind of just rein it all in. Like Helen, you just went all over. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. But I love, and ties back to share your brilliance. All of us are brilliant in our own way. You are brilliant, and I haven't met someone with the same set of skills and same way your brain works. But all the people you've helped, I'm sure you've seen their own different brilliances.
Absolutely. And helping people honor that. Because so often I hear people say, oh, it's not good enough, or I'll have to wait till I'm, have more experience, or I don't think I could do that. And then I ask the question, and this usually shifts them. I say to them, what would it have meant to you at the beginning of your career if someone with your knowledge had mentored you or had written a book? What would that have done for your trajectory? And they're like, oh my gosh, it would have shaved years off of my journey. I'm like, well, then I don't mean to be rude, but you're being selfish by holding it back. So,
oh my God, I love that. The only other person I know who calls it that is Grant Cardone. He's constantly telling people they're selfish for like not doing stuff. Like if you're not teaching, if you're not speaking, if you're not doing this, it's selfish to just hold your own knowledge in for yourself.
Sometimes people are shy. They're shy to teach because they're like, oh, I don't have the experience. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm going to trip on my tongue. It's like, well, when I first started teaching online, I tripped over my tongue. I didn't ever have a stutter in my life, but I would stutter. I would turn like flushed. I thought I would faint. And then someone taught me this exercise that before you get on the line, what you do is you stand up and you do 3 deep breaths, and you just said, let me be a vessel for whatever comes through to help other people. And then it's not about us. We don't have to be all, nervous. And then even if you are nervous, just start talking. And I'm usually always nervous before I talk, which was very interesting because I wasn't nervous before I spoke tonight. So that was interesting.
Yay! I'm so glad.
Wonderful.
Spread the word. It's not nerve-wracking.
And then once you start talking, within less than 10 seconds, you forget that you're nervous and you just are sharing. And then everything can come from there.
I loved what you were saying. I can't repeat it. I already can't remember the exact words you used, but something about being a vessel or just letting this stuff come through you. Like Lewis Howes is a person, I like the way he explained it about he used to be so nervous before he spoke or before he did anything. And he realized that like when you're nervous, you're just thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about the audience and what you can do for the audience. You're only thinking about yourself. So once he realized like, I'm only thinking about myself and the point is to be thinking about the audience, he stopped being nervous and would just go on stage and just be like completely thinking about how is he going to help the audience and how is he going to get his message across. And I think that's a good lesson. Like we have to just not worry about what people are thinking about us or just don't worry about yourself at all. Just get out there and help people.
Yeah.
That's the shift because we're just naturally wired to help. And so we get out of it's all about me and I'm so nervous and I don't want to try to sell anybody anything. That's uncomfortable for everybody. But when it's all about helping other people, even if your business is growing as a result, which, you've got to feed your family too, you're creating this win-win and people can see that you really care and you're helping them because there's a lot of people out there who could potentially teach in a similar topic. However, if they don't care, then you're allowing the vultures to get people that you could help in a kind way.
Yes.
That's a good way to look at it. And I love how you're happy when they go on and teach other people. Like you're not worried about like, oh, they're going to compete against me or they're going to do the same thing. You're like, oh, they're doing the same thing, like in an excited way. Like that person who went to the library or whatever started the...
Absolutely, because we all have our own topics. I haven't met anybody. I have colleagues who we teach similar topics, but there's enough difference that I pretty much pay my mortgage on affiliate relationships with people who we share a very common audience because we have a different lane with that audience. Like our work is complementary.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of how many people are in the world, I mean, there's just no way that one person can handle all of it, even if it's the same exact topic. I mean, even with print on demand, we have so many groups, so many things, but there's still like, it never feels like a shortage. Like there's always someone who needs to learn something. There's always someone who needs help. Like, I don't know.
That's what makes your group different because there's so many print on demand groups that they're just very high strung and very high, a lot of hype and a lot of, do this fast paced, slimy marketing stuff. I mean, I'm making a judgment, but that's what it feels like to me. In your group, it's like, this is how you do it. These are the brass tacks. We really care. You answer people's questions. You take them along. You point them to resources. That's the difference. So whatever your topic is like when you create that kind of community, then people are going to feel that they can trust you and they can, that's a great comment that I see.
I have to show this because this would make me so happy, Christine. If you have been able to inspire Christine to teach art, that is a gift to the world.
Oh my gosh, you get chills again because they gotta wear my coat here. Well, that's wonderful. Yes, because you can say it's okay. Once you say it a couple times, you can stop saying it. But if you need to at the beginning, you say, I'm a little nervous. This is, I'm new to online speaking. I said that the first couple times. And then after a point, you don't have to say it anymore. You can just think it and then you can stop thinking it. But it's okay and realize that, especially with the art, it's like online art. It's like, for me, online art is like, I love online art. It's trying to find the time. I pretty much carve out weekends to do online art, but to find teachers who can teach it to average mortals. Oh my gosh, Christine, if you can do that, you would be giving so much back to people who really want to express themselves, but don't even know where to begin.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I really like the idea of don't worry so much if other people are teaching the same topic as you. Like everyone is so different in how they express it. And I mean, with art, there's so many art styles and so many different ways of teaching and so many different, totally different audiences. I mean, there's cartoon artists, there's fine artists, there's, I don't even know, pastels and oil
Procreate is
paints.
a huge boon.
Yeah,
just to draw on your iPad, it's just amazing. And there's
just
lots of
put what
different
out there, whatever topic, whatever thing. And even if it helps one person, I mean, at the very least, it's helping yourself because you're reiterating what you know. So it's kind of helping you see the gaps. Like if you say something and you're like, well, that's not the full story. Like this doesn't sound right. And you kind of push yourself to learn another angle or another thing. But hopefully
it also helps you realize your purpose. And it's like, oh, I'm living my purpose. I'm on the right path because I'm doing things that, not everybody has the same values. But for me, it's like, I feel like if I'm doing something that's enriching other people and making other people happy while also being able to feed my family and make my living in a way that has a lot of integrity, to me, those are value. I know a lot of us share those values, but for me, I base it on those values. And when that resonates and I see that what I'm doing is helping other people, and that by my helping other people, it's not just helping them, it's helping their family. It's giving them, like one person, doesn't have to be away from her family because she can work from home now because of the skills that she's learned, and that's enriched the whole community. So just the paying it forward and one person at a time, touching one person at a time, the type of impact, and then getting that reinforcement of you're doing the right work in this world. That's a gift in itself.
Mm-hmm. And also when people ask you questions, it kind of helps you think about things from another way. And it also kind of helps you start to see what you're good at over time, because the types of things that people go to you for advice, you start to realize like, wait, like I was thinking I was teaching this, but they keep asking questions. Like they see different things in you than you see in yourself. So like, for instance, you might think that you're teaching about books, but then you realize like, I'm teaching people about organization. I'm teaching people about motivation, about mindset. Like there's so many other things. It's not just like the brass tacks of this is how you write a book.
Yeah. And I think that you're inspiring so many people tonight too, to put themselves out there and potentially share their brilliance with others. So I'm seeing a lot of comments, from people that are saying, gosh, I wish I wasn't so shy. But I think that some of the people are listening and maybe you got through to them. So
I saw those comments too. Thank you so much for watching. Nurse Oasis and Dwayne. I saw Dwayne say, when I was saying different kinds of artists, he's like, dinosaur artist. He's a dinosaur artist. Yes, Dwayne. So you can teach people about dinosaur art. Everybody has something. But what was I about to say? Darn it, I lost it. And then Jacob is saying, teaching is a great way to learn new things. Thanks for watching, Jacob. And yes.
Yeah. And that's what Dvorah said at the very beginning. That's how she kind of got started in some of this, is that, she chose things that she wanted to learn and decided that she would learn those and teach people along the way. So it's great.
Oh, I remember.
I love teaching classes like that, but I don't want, you were saying that you remember something. I don't want you to forget.
Yes, we're forgetting again. I was just going to say when people were saying shy and things like that, because it really does hold people back when they feel shy or they feel whole ranges of emotions. It could be anything from whatever. Like, what advice do you have for people to take steps to overcome that?
Okay. So what you do, the exercise that I shared with you, do that exercise. So you get a couple of, a notebook or a couple of blank pieces of paper. And again, describe your ideal reader, student, client. Describe what are their challenges? What do they struggle with? And then the third question is, how can you help them? Based on your knowledge and expertise and what they're struggling with, where's the intersection? So what's the topic? Then you find the topic, new page, write the topic at the top, and then 5 or 10 bullet points. You don't have to, just bullet points, randomly list what are 5 or 10 things you can teach on that topic. Then what you do, here's where you get brave. You meet with your best friend or a colleague or someone in the Facebook group, and you jump on a free conference call or a Zoom call, and you have them ask you those questions one at a time. So you tell me, so it says here that, or I understand that you love to teach people how to fly fish. How did you get into fly fishing? And your job is to pretend there are 100 people on the line, and you're recording this, right? 100 people on the line, and you answer in as much detail as possible. You don't just say, oh, I like fishing. No, try to, go on for like 5 minutes on each topic. So that's going to give you close to an hour's worth of content, which is about 20, 30 pages worth of content. You then take that audio recording, you just talk to your best friend. You can talk to your best friend all night, right? And you're feeling comfortable and you're getting this experience. And then what you do is I found this site called Temi, TEMI.com. You upload the audio or the video. It's extremely accurate. 10 cents per audio minute. They'll give you back in 5 minutes your whole transcript.
Wow.
I write a lot of my Kindle books viewing that process, like a 10 tips book, like the 10 things that people want to know about whatever your topic area is. And to get over, you can do it on your own, but to get over on the shyness, you meet with a friend on the call and you tell them to also pretend there's 100, no chit chat. Let's pretend there's 100 people listening in and you're the radio interviewer and I have to answer the questions. And if I say to you, oh, I did it wrong, I messed up, just say, we're live on the air, Stu, keep going.
Oh my gosh.
Such a great idea.
That's really good. Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting the answer to be, but that's not what I was expecting. That's a great idea.
Because then they get the confidence and they have a product as well. That could be a giveaway, that could be a Kindle book, that could be the foundation for a whole training program. Like a 10-module training program, you just outlined your whole course.
Oh my gosh. Christina, how can I start thinking like this? I definitely make it too hard for sure. But that's why I do these lives, because if I wasn't doing a live, I would just put it off. If I had to edit, if I had to do XYZ, all these things, like the harder you make something, the more likely you're not going to do it. That's why I was like, we're going live Mondays and Thursdays, because then it gets done. It's, we have a video out on YouTube, like we did it. But if
that is such a great way to go about creating content. I used to create my course content at my computer, and for every 30-minute session, it would take me 10 hours because I'm such a perfectionist. So I started doing my course content live, so I couldn't redo it. I just keep going. I edit the videos after, but in an hour, I have an hour's worth of content, and then it takes me a couple hours to edit versus taking 10 hours to keep re-recording because I messed up a word or something. So it's just easier. And with that live audience, gives you a lot of energy.
Yes. We'll see. One of these days, maybe I'll do some edited videos or different kind of content. But right now, it's like, this is what I got. So I like Teresa's comment. She's like, this is a Catherine Shelton Jr. I do see some similarities. You guys are both so unique. Catherine Shelton's so unique. You're so unique. Like, which is why you guys are amazing. Catherine has a lot of good ideas and a creative mind, and you have a lot of good ideas and a creative mind as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love the way that Dvorah thinks and processes and steps, because that's kind of how I think. So we're on the same wavelength here.
Guys in the chat, who thinks like that? Who's organized in your thought process? That's a whole gift, guys, if that's how you think. And then who's like me that is just not organized in how you think? There's no bullet points going on in my head, that is for sure. No outlines. But I love how you're so creative and also think like that, because I think sometimes people think it's one or the other. Like you're either very organized and very, or you're creative, or you're this or that. Anybody can be anything they want to be. You can be creative without lines. It's fine. So, let's see. POD success. I haven't read this comment. I'm just going to show it as I read it. That is a great tip for me. I haven't made any new videos because the editing is overwhelming for me. I've been thinking about doing lives. I might just have to do lives and get the videos up. Yes, absolutely. Do it. And if for any reason you're nervous about doing that, you can always just make it a private video. So actually, I'm not sure if you can do that. Can you do that? Go live as a private video? I think you can.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you could go live as a private video, and then you could always, edit it later. But for me, it's not happening. I'm not editing right now. At some point in time, probably if I can hire people, then I'll edit at some point. But I don't think I personally will ever be editing. That just is not something that I want to do.
One of the things I've noticed about, sorry, I'm distracted. My cat is jumping on the table here and knocking things off. All right, I'll try to ignore her. But
it's totally all right.
I noticed the people who make the most money online have the least edited videos.
Yeah, so far, like the way my brain works is like there's got to be a real big reason to do something. And so far, I haven't been convinced that there's any benefit at all to editing a video. I'm sure there is. Like many people are like, Helen, it looks more professional, this, that, the other. You need to have an intro. You need to do this, like all the things that I need to do. And I'm like, I don't care when I'm watching someone's intro on a YouTube video. Usually I'm like, I hope it's short, or else I'm trying to like move past it. Like, I don't know. For me, I can't. Somebody maybe someday will be able to convince me it's important, but so far, no one has been able.
You brought up a really good point. My very first business coach helped me go from, I was really wanting to make a living online. It was right about the time, it was that conference that I went to where I met the people who introduced me. He was the one that put on the conference. And he has a book called Take Action, Revise Later. Bob Jenkins. Okay. And his concept is you can be a perfectionist, but you're not going to get things done. And so take action. You can always go back and revise it and fix it. And I had to train myself because I'm such a perfectionist. I would go into perfectionist mode and I'd have my little sticky note, take action, revise later. So I would stop myself. I only had to stop myself a few times, but I went from earning, this was 12 years ago, $125 a month to full-time income, paying a mortgage and a car payment in Connecticut based on the internet earning by taking action.
Yeah. So. And you can always, and the revise later is a great point, because something like TubeBuddy or all these different tools, you can add intros and all the different stuff you need later. Somebody else can go make these videos look good at some point in time, but right now I'm just going to keep plowing ahead and making more of them.
Yeah. And then it's usually much better than we think it is. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll listen to something and I'll be like, oh gosh, I tripped over my tongue, I coughed, and I listen to it. I'm like, wow, this is really good stuff. It's usually better than we think it is.
Yes. And there's surprisingly few bloopers. Like I one time was like, we should make like a funny video with like all the bloopers. And I'm like, literally the only one I could really find was not this past New Year's, but the New Year's before that. I accidentally was we were trying to figure out when the next video was. And I was like, I think New Year's lands on January 1st or something. Like it was something so ridiculous, but it made sense in the context because I was like, we were trying to figure out the next date. And I was trying to say like the Monday landed on New Year's, so our show would be delayed another week. But it came out as like, oh, I think New Year's lands on January 1st. That's like the only blooper we have. You would think there'd be like tons of things like that, but I don't know. We don't have a whole lot. There's a few, but
not when you imagine. People see that you're human. They're like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, oh my gosh, it's already after 9. I'm so sorry. I literally had no idea. This went so fast. What? I feel like we didn't even get into all this stuff. I mean, we didn't really talk about your course. We didn't really talk about a lot of stuff. what would you like to say that we haven't talked about yet? What's something
Well, we were talking about Kindle earlier, and just in a nutshell, because I know we're getting ready to wrap up here, I really want people to hear this because Kindle is this big mysterious thing, and I used to publish to Kindle, and it used to be as difficult as programming an HTML website because you can't just upload a Word document to Kindle. It's just not possible. Well, I had a student come to me and said, will you help me format for Kindle? And I said, I've been doing research to find a simple way. It's interesting that you say that. I found this software. If you let me practice on you, I'll, do a special rate because, he wanted to, hire me to help him. So we created this win-win. And by the end of our time together, he had a book published to Kindle with formatted images, which is very hard to do on Kindle.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm going to create a course around this. And I asked him if he wanted to teach it with me. Like, no, I'm too shy. I can't teach the course. You teach the course. So, and he's a photographer. So he said, all right, I'll take the photos. You teach the course. So I created the course and it was a huge hit. I was absolutely blown away. And so that was the course that you went through, Helen, about the formatting for Kindle, because now what you can do is you format in Word. There's certain things that you do with page breaks and headings, and you just go through and you create formatter pages and back matter pages. So you do some subtle marketing. You can add hyperlinks, and you do all this in a Word document, and then you import it into this software that Amazon makes available. And what used to take weeks, once you do all the work in Word, within 30 minutes, you can have a book published on Kindle. So I started offering that recently, and that turned from that one work. It's interesting, we're talking about the evolution of courses. That turned from that first workshop where I taught formatting. I then created a 12-week Kindle challenge that go everywhere from how to get the ideas to how to find the gems on your computer, because I teach all about repurposed content.
You are so good with repurposed content. When I was going through that section, I'm like, first of all, I would never have thought to look at my computer for the content for a KDP book. Like that wouldn't have even crossed my brain, but you're like explaining like, okay, go here, do this. Like, amazing.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm really excited about how easy it is now to publish to Kindle, because Kindle books are really fast. Their covers are really fast because you only need the front cover, and people will buy Kindle books more easily than a print book in many cases because they're much cheaper. Amazon markets for you, and you can create a book series. So let's go back to that idea where we had the list of the 10 things that your friend's going to interview you on.
Mm-hmm.
So you can combine 2 of those and end up with 5 books, because a Kindle book can be as short as 5,000 words. Mm. And there you have a book series. And then everybody people usually like to collect things. So if you brand them and they are tied together, you have this whole series now of Kindle books, and you see how easy it is to do, because it's not going to take you weeks. It's going to take you, an hour to format, or an hour or 2 to format in Word, depending on what condition your manuscript is in, or your transcripts that you just got from Temi, and because you want to go through and take all the ums and the ahs out and whatnot, and then you format it, and then you add the images. You can push a button, add the table of contents. You could add marketing materials. Boom! In 72 hours, you can have a book that's on Amazon, and you can get your own author page on Amazon called Amazon Author. So you can have like amazon.com/author/your name. I mean, you can have your own like branded author URL on Amazon. I mean, what will that do for your credibility, right?
Yeah. Oh my
Amazing.
gosh, you are full of knowledge. I mean, I'm over here making notes. So.
Yeah, seriously, I gotta watch this again. And you got to take the course, Christina. It's on our email. As I was going through it, I was just like, so much of you, like, you don't waste time. You are so organized where it's just like, okay, you did this, make sure you save it because you're going to need that again. Like, you carefully explain, like, okay, save it in this folder, do this. Because I usually just end up doing it all over again. So somebody, like, we met for our yearly planning session, And like one of the things of advice was like, have a frequently asked question template. I mean, we're literally on year 2 and we don't have a frequently asked question template. Like we literally will answer the question hundreds of times instead of just having a template or having like, and you don't think like that. Like you are so good at just not repeating steps and not, so I really need to learn that from you, because it wastes so much time when you just keep repeating the same step over and over and over again. So, well, guys, do you have any last minute questions? I know we're over time, so thank you for hanging in there with us. Any questions from anybody? Any last things you want to say? Did we cover everything?
Oh gosh, we just hit the tip of the iceberg, I feel, but but there's a lot of good stuff here, and we've got Dvorah's links. Oh my gosh, I want to go like take all of her classes, and yeah, I've been posting some of the book links in the chat. So as Dvorah's been mentioning different books, I've been posting those, but go and check out her listings on Amazon. If you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription like I do, a lot of her stuff is available. So it's just a wealth of knowledge.
People are requesting a part 2 to this interview. So you did a great job.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah.
You really are inspiring. So yes, we have, thank you. That was incredible. This is awesome. I need a part 2. So there you go.
Yes.
Well, this has been such an honor. I have admired you ladies for so long, and I love being part of your community. And it's just an extreme honor to be able to be here. And thank you to all of our listeners. I hope this was helpful. And I always like to ask people to take action. So I'm going to just challenge you right now. As soon as this call ends, just stop, close your eyes, and just jot down one thing that you're walking away with and just write it down, because then you can take action on it. So that's my little gift for you.
Yay.
Amazing. Well, there we go. Perfect way to end. Thank you so much for being here and for being in our community. You're in the group. So if people have questions, can they tag you in the Facebook group?
Absolutely. So if I see something come through, just tag me. And if there's a thread or something, I'm happy to participate.
Perfect. And you guys can comment below on the video too. I will answer or make sure that we get the answer for you. So thank you guys all. And we will see you on Thursday. And thank you so much, Dvorah.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.